Hello, students. Let's start with a simple thought. Think about everything you use in a day. The water you drink, the food you eat, even the mobile phone in your hand. All these things, they come from somewhere, right? They come from our nature. But have you ever wondered what will happen if these things start to run out? Well, today, we are going to explore this very important question. We'll learn about how we use our resources and why this idea of sustainable development is so crucial for all of us. So, here's what we will cover today. First, we'll look at a dangerous misconception, an old way of thinking. Then, we'll see the problems this caused, the cost of greed. After that, we will look at the solutions, a call for fairness, what sustainable development really means, and a worldwide plan called Agenda 21. So, let's just pause for a moment. Think about your morning. The bed you slept in, the water you used, the breakfast you ate, the bus or car that brought you to school. You see, every single thing is connected to our environment, to our planet's resources. So the big question we need to ask ourselves is, what happens if we use them all up? This is what our lesson is all about. Okay, so to understand why we need to be careful today, we first have to understand a belief people had for a very, very long time. It was a simple idea, but as we're about to see, it was a dangerous one, and it created many of the problems we are trying to solve now. You see, for hundreds of years, people thought that all the resources, the forests, the rivers, the coal under the ground, were all free gifts from nature. And because they were gifts, it was assumed they would last forever. People believed that no matter how much we took, there would always be more. This thinking, it guided how humans lived for a very long time. Now, what happens when we think something is free and will never end? We don't use it carefully, do we? This belief that resources are free and limitless, it had very serious results. It led to people using resources without any plan, and this came at a very high cost for everyone. This unplanned, indiscriminate use of resources created three major problems. The first one was depletion. This means resources simply started getting used up. They started finishing, often just to satisfy the greed of a few people. The second problem was accumulation. The resources were gathered up and controlled by just a few hands, creating a very unequal society. And the third, and perhaps the biggest problem of all, was the beginning of global ecological crises. Let's look at that second problem a little more closely, this idea of accumulation. Imagine our planet's resources are like one big cake. Instead of everyone getting a fair share, a few people took most of the cake for themselves. This left very little for everybody else. So society got divided into two groups, the haves, who were the rich, and the have-nots, who were the poor. This created a huge imbalance in the world. And what about the impact on our environment? Well, that was huge. Using too much coal and oil without thinking led to global warming. Chemicals from factories started damaging our ozone layer, which protects us from the sun. Our air, our water, and our soil, they all got polluted. And the quality of our land started going down, which we call land degradation. These were not small, local problems. They were becoming crises for the entire planet. So, as you can see, with resources running out, with society becoming more and more unequal, and with the environment in danger, it became very clear that the old way of thinking was not working. The world needed a new plan, a new approach that was built on the idea of fairness. This new approach was based on a very important idea, equitable distribution. Now, equitable is just a simple word that means fair. The world started to realize that for everyone to have a good quality of life and for us to have peace in the world, resources must be shared fairly. It was no longer just a nice idea. It became essential for our survival. And so this new thinking, this call for fairness and for planning for the future, it gave birth to a very powerful concept. This is the solution the world agreed on. It is called sustainable development. It's a very important term, so let's take some time to understand exactly what it means. All right, here is the definition of sustainable development. Let's read it slowly. Development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generations. It's a very powerful sentence. Let's break it down into three parts to understand it properly. Okay, so the first part is very clear. It says that any development, whether we are building a road, a factory, or a school, should be done without harming our environment. We do need progress, of course, but that progress cannot be at the cost of our forests, our rivers, or our clean air. We have to find a way to grow that also protects nature. Now, the second part is about balance. Sustainable development does not mean that we should stop all progress and go back in time. Not at all. It recognizes that all of us living here and now, in the present, have needs. We need food, we need homes, we need electricity. We must be able to use resources to live healthy lives today. And this brings us to the third and most important part of the definition. While we meet our own needs today, we must do it in such a way that we don't create problems for the future. We have to make sure that our children and their children will also have enough resources to meet their needs. There's a beautiful saying that goes, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children." This means we have a duty to leave the planet in a good condition for them. Okay, so we have this wonderful concept of sustainable development, but an idea is one thing. How do you actually make it happen? Leaders from around the world understood that this was a global problem. No single country could solve it alone. So they realized they needed a coordinated plan for the entire world. And that plan was called Agenda 21. This plan was created at a very famous meeting. In June 1992, more than 100 leaders of different countries met in a city called Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. This was the first ever International Earth Summit. Their goal was simple, but huge: to find solutions for urgent environmental problems and also for socio-economic development. And the most important thing that came out of this meeting was the adoption of Agenda 21. So what exactly is this Agenda 21? Well, you can think of it as a promise, a declaration that all these world leaders signed. Its main goal is to achieve sustainable development across the globe. It's basically a big action plan to fight environmental damage, poverty, and disease. And the whole idea is based on countries cooperating with each other and sharing the responsibility. Now, this next point is very, very important. Please listen carefully. While Agenda 21 is a global plan, it is meant to be put into action at the local level. One of its main objectives is that every local government, whether it is a small village panchayat or a big city corporation, should prepare its own local Agenda 21. Why? Because the problems of a village in India might be different from the problems of a city in America. So global goals need local action. So let's just quickly recap what we've learned today. We started by seeing how the old idea of resources being free gifts was dangerous and caused many problems. Then we understood the solution: the idea of sustainable development, which is all about balancing our present needs with the needs of the future while protecting our environment. Finally, we learned about the world's plan, Agenda 21, which aims to achieve this through global cooperation and local action. All of this teaches us one simple thing: responsible planning of our resources is absolutely essential for the survival of all life on our planet.